Hello, everybody. Welcome to our podcast, WolfTracks, here for CSU Extended Studies, CSU Pueblo Extended Studies. My name's Gary. I am the Associate Dean of Extended Studies, and Gary Salazar as your host. Today, we're very happy to have join us a student in the nursing program. Her name is Alisha Whaley. Did I say that right, Alisha?
You did, and it's actually
Awesome.
a new last name. Like I just got married a couple weeks ago, so it's kind of weird to hear it.
Oh, congratulations. Well, you're going to hear that a
Thank
lot
you.
more. We want to highlight during this podcast opportunities to elevate our people who join us. We get a chance to explore so many cool programs and folks who are working in our community doing things that elevate others. We want to introduce some of our programs, but most especially, we want to have all of you get an opportunity to learn about somebody who's going through a project, heading up a project in a program, and see if that helps you understand a little bit about what we do here. We record this, we put them on our YouTube channel, and then we also send them out through our social media channels. So that's our intro. Welcome, Alisha. We always begin with a little bit of that, and then we say, hey, would you mind talking a little bit about yourself? What's your background? And what are you doing here at CSU Pueblo? And that's how we get started. So welcome aboard. Thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. I actually am in the nursing program. I'm pretty proud of this. I'm the oldest person in the cohort, and I think that's pretty darn cool. So I'll be 51 when I graduate in 87 days. And I think that the CSU nursing program has just opened so many doors for me. I've had other careers, obviously before starting this, but when I was 5 years old, my grandfather took me to Bethel before it was part of a college. It was just Bethel Nursing School. And he took me there and we walked in and he said, my granddaughter wants to be a nurse. And so we're going to sit in this lecture and she's going to see what kind of women are nurses. And from that moment on, I have always wanted to be a nurse. So despite, everything getting in the way, life gets in the way and you have careers. 2 years ago, I applied to CSU Pueblo and by the grace of God, they accepted me and I started the nursing program. So here I am. And yeah.
Man, I mean, that's a great story. I mean, just getting married, you're just coming into graduation, you're making career changes. This is awesome. And you threw in the grandfather. I always love the grandfather pieces. So that is cool. You're fulfilling the dream coming here. I like that.
Yep, absolutely.
So you started 2 years ago. You wanted to come back into nursing. You've had other careers. I understand the why behind that, but why CSU Pueblo for the nursing program?
I did my research and I looked at the reputation of some of the schools. I mean, also, cost was a factor. What resources were available to me from school, both financially and educationally. And I compared it to the other schools in the area and the reputation, the passing rate for the NCLEX, the support that's given to the students, all of that just pointed me in this direction. And so, I mean, I applied to other schools, but this is the one I accepted.
Well, that is so neat. For the audience out there, they may not understand what NCLEX is, but that's kind of like your final exam to become a nurse. Is that right?
Yeah. If you don't pass the NCLEX, you don't get a license and you don't get to be a nurse. So that's kind of the, I think of it kind of like the doom and gloom, but it's also the exciting piece because there's so much pressure to pass. But we're given all the tools that we need, and it's just a matter of going out and doing it. But it is that kind of thing that's looming in front of us. But so you have to pass.
Right. That is so cool. And thank you for taking this moment to explain that. Now, I know that you don't live here in Pueblo. You're up in like Colorado Springs, and you travel back and forth to make some of your classes too, which is, again, is an awesome thing that you would do that. That's a challenge, but you're doing it. And we do have other students. I've heard we have faculty who travel from Colorado Springs to come on down. So that does work for a lot of different people. When you graduate, you said in 87 days?
Yep.
All right.
May 11th.
Do you do you have plans after that? I mean, health field is a terrific field right now. Nursing is a big need out there. What are your directions after you graduate?
Well, I currently work at Memorial Central in Colorado Springs as kind of they call it an ACP. I kind of relate it to a like a CNA plus or a nurse light. We can do a lot of things, but we can't do obviously nursing
Hmm.
scope and practice. So I already have a job offer from them to stay,
Oh,
and which is great. I don't know that I don't know that that's where I want to stay. So I am going to look at some other options. I have a clinical rotation this semester with Sangre de Cristo Hospice and Palliative Care. And hospice and palliative care is one of the areas that I'm interested in. So I'm very excited about that clinical day because I'm not opposed to working in Pueblo. The drive actually kind of gives you some time to decompress. So for now, I have a job offer at UC Health, um, but I do want to look at other options and different fields of study and different areas of nursing.
you know, that's awesome that you have the job offer. It's very cool that they want to keep you there. Obviously, you're an experienced employee. They want to take on more folks who are doing these kinds of things. They probably see what you're doing as a great thing for them as well to have people improving. Uh, Hospital palliative care. Can I ask what is that?
Well, hospice, palliative care, it's kind of end of life.
Hmm.
So it's giving palliative care is kind of um, easing kind of that transition, and same with hospice. You know, when people come to the end of their life, I think there's something beautiful in death, but I think there's something more beautiful in being able to help the living.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
example, I had a friend who had Sangre de Cristo Hospice come into her house when her husband passed away, and he was very ill. And I remember specifically going to her house and seeing the hospice nurse arrive, and the hospice nurse just put her hands on her shoulders and said, "Go take a shower, go out to lunch with your friend. I've got this." And I think that if someone has shoulders broad enough to carry kind of that burden of death is coming. I mean, it's coming for
Right.
all of us, but if you're in a situation where you're trying to ease your loved one, ease their pain and ease their suffering, I think that there's some beauty in being able to assist in that process.
Yeah, that's well said. Little short story. My dad, when he was getting towards the end of his life, I was struggling with what do I do? I'm being told one thing or another. And I remember one night, I was just sitting around in one of the hospital waiting rooms, and my dad was in another room being examined, and I'm just struggling with this what's the next choice? And it was a nurse who just came and sat down with me, and we just kind of very openly talked about things. It really gave me a good sense of understanding more. Yeah, and I always think back to that moment where it was a nurse who's making that connection that helped me with some of the future choices for my own father. So that part is always impressive, and the fact that you want to be a part of that role where you interact with those patients and those families, kudos to you. That's awesome. Now, this is something I don't understand, but if you are graduating with a nursing degree here,
Mhm.
do you need to get any kind of specialized training for that kind of direction? Will there be more education and training for you, or can you go right into it immediately?
There are a lot of places that offer it's called a new grad residency. So they'll take on a new graduate and then they kind of put you through training. UC Health will train you if you decide to go into the new grad program for like the emergency department or maybe oncology. And same with hospice. They will kind of
Mhm.
train you and kind of walk you through, hook you up with a preceptor, and get
Yep.
you set to just walk, into that role after whatever their allotted amount of time is.
That is awesome. That's cool. We're seeing more and more, and not necessarily in the health field, but other places where industries are looking at how do we bring people in? Can we bring them into something we might call an apprenticeship or an internship or some other vehicle that allows that? I think that's a great pathway. Allows folks who bring in some level of experience, they get the experience on the ground, and they slowly move on up. Um, and it was UC Health who was doing that. Is that right?
Yeah, UC Health does it. Obviously, Parkview here, the
Yeah.
Parkview system has become part of UC Health, so
Right.
that they just kind of embraced that. And a lot of places do that. They're looking at new graduate nurses, and they know that some people will graduate with zero hospital experience. And so they know that we've gone through leadership, courses. We've gone through all of the things that you can do, the giving an IV or giving shots or administering medication or all those skills that we have. But they also know that we've gone through training for like therapeutic communication and how to talk to patients and how to have meaningful conversations.
Right.
So they know that we're coming out of CSUP with those skills. And then that just kind of gives them a chance to come in, let us see what kind of employee you are. Let us see if you're a good fit. Let us see if this is where you want to be during that preceptor time and that kind of new grad residency. So I think it's a win-win for both sides.
Yeah. Very cool. And what a great connection, I think, with our university and some of the hospitals around here. Parkview, I think we do some work with. We have one of our VPs, I think, is on one of the boards out there. So I love that connection with the hospitals. We want to continue to do that, and also because we do train folks who come to them as employees. An awesome pathway here. Now, you mentioned the preparation, and I was very lucky when I got here. I walked around and I stumbled into the nursing section over in what we call the High C building, or C High building, right?
Yeah.
And there was a lady down there that said, "Here, let me show you around." And she did. And turns out it was the dean at the time. I think it was Susan. Susan was showing me around, and she's walking me all over the place. People were showing me different things. It was incredible. I was very impressed with this place she called the simulation lab.
Oh my gosh, I was just there yesterday.
Oh my gosh. Real rooms, just like if I was going into a hospital and you run different kinds of scenarios, you do training and education in there. I'm walking around and she's explaining things to me, and I feel like it's very realistic, very, very hospital-like setting. What a great place to receive any kind of training that you would then be using later on. But you were in there yesterday?
Yeah, I had simulation yesterday, and I'm not gonna lie, it's not my favorite thing because nothing against the simulation lab. It is the anxiety within myself that, the whole theory behind the simulation lab is this is where you go to learn how to do things. And if you're going to make a mistake because you're not hurting anybody. You're not being unsafe. But knowing that my peers are sitting in the other room watching on the overhead cameras and they can hear everything, it gives me anxiety to know that you're kind of on camera and everybody's watching and, oh my God, don't mess up. But that is the safe space. So if you give the wrong medication, you're not really giving the wrong medication, and you can kind of go through and see like, okay, I made a mistake here. This is where I'm weak, but I was also very good at this. So it gives you a chance to experience being a nurse without actually having a license on the line or without actually potentially hurting somebody. So it's great. I love the sim lab, and the staff on the sim lab, phenomenal. They're so much fun.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. You've said, what I've heard before. I came from another university and they had a smaller sim lab there, and everybody said the same thing. What a great place to do some training. What a great place to make mistakes, and you want to get those mistakes and learn from them. I felt the same thing that you just said when I was there. And at that time, they were actually talking about doing some kind of a large citywide simulation with emergency responders, first responders, like a mass casualty drill, and using the sim lab to be a training resource as well. I'm like, well, that's pretty cool that you can bring all these different entities together, still learn from that, because some of that might happen again that you would experience in real life at another hospital. It sets up a very good training environment. Thank you for telling me about that.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I love it. And it kind of varies our experience because some people don't learn from sitting in lecture or reading books or, and nursing is very hands-on. You can't tell someone how to put an IV into somebody without actually having them do it. So the sim lab is just a great place. The mannequin arms, obviously, but you can't teach that stuff out of a book. You got to actually do the skills and learn how to do them. And the sim lab's great. The sim lab is great for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, that's super. Thank you for talking about that. When you've been going through these classes, you have the opportunity to work with lots of classmates. You get exposed to different ideas from the multiple teachers that you get introduced to that are working with you on that. Can you tell me a little bit about that process and you look back to the first days you were here until now, has that gotten any easier or is it tougher or what?
I don't think it ever gets any easier. I met a really nice girl. She's a sophomore. She just started. And I mean, to be quite honest, she's terrified because she's new to the college. She doesn't know anybody. And so I just started talking to her and I told her, I said, it's hard, but you'll find your tribe. You'll find your people. Luckily, I found a really great study group. I think there was 6. Now there's maybe 8 of us. And we just support each other and we help each other and we send reminders. Don't forget to do this. Don't forget to do that. And I think coming into a program as a new student and also as, a young student, maybe first time experiencing college, you got to find someone to support you. And I know that at the start of this year, they sent out a paper and they said, if you want to be a mentor to someone, give us your name, give us your phone number. And so, they do that with all of the seniors. And so the seniors will get assigned to a sophomore and encouraged to interact with them. I don't know if the girl that I talked to signed up to be a mentor, but I've kind of taken her under my wing anyways, whether she likes it or not. And I send her, study sheets or study tips that helped me, or I'll tell her, don't forget to look at this medication or whatever. So I think coming into a new program, partnering up with someone that can mentor you through it. I wish I had had that my first semester because it was mildly terrifying. But into the second semester, you start to find your people. And then, you just have to find a good support system.
Yeah, that's cool. That's incredibly well said too, because you see that in all sorts of different fields, and particularly for students who are new to a college or university environment. Coming into that, plus having to learn a new field, it's so nice to have those friends along the way. That shared experience thing really is helpful. Thank you.
Yeah,
all right.
It really helps.
So you give me some great catch-all phrases. You're like, find your tribe. I like that idea. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll find them.
You've talked about some great challenges here, and if you were a new student, or if you were talking to a new student who hasn't come to university or hasn't made their mind yet, but they want to get into the health field, they thought about nursing, what would you, now having the experience you've had, what would you say to them?
On the funny side, I would say tell your family that you'll see them in a couple years, because you will lose your social life and your free time, and you will have to dedicate. You have to be dedicated. On the serious note, do it. Don't hesitate. It's a matter of time, and it is all going to be worth it. It's a small sacrifice that you make for a long-term benefit. This getting through a nursing program, getting your RN license, becoming a nurse, this is a career that is going to sustain you until you decide that you don't want to anymore. But also take care of yourself mentally. Make sure you're getting sleep, staying up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then getting up at 5 or 6 and thinking that you're going to test well that day is not going to work. You have to mentally take a break and decompress and sleep. Get sleep. That's my biggest advice. Make sure you sleep, because your brain can't retain anything if you're not getting rest.
Yeah, good advice. Good advice. Hey, we're really rapidly closing on the end of our 20-minute conversation. Sorry, this is fascinating, and it's wonderful to get a student's perspective, particularly somebody who has, I would say, the history of how that got started with Granddad. Moving through the career fields and then coming and making a decision here. I love the fact that, you're ending up with the mentorship opportunity that you give, you have a career field ahead of you, and then just telling anybody else, hey, it's going to be tough. There's challenges along the way, but if this is what you want to do, just do it. Find the tribe and do it. That's awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
You.
All right. Well, how's that for timing? I don't know if you can hear it, but our timer just went off. Let me go ahead and close this out. At Extended Studies here, we've been fortunate to have Alisha Whaley. coming and talking to us about her experience as a nursing student on our podcast today. So thank you again to Alisha for making that time. Thank you for all the rest of you who are out there joining us. You know, education is a wonderful experience. We don't want anybody afraid of it. And if you're looking at CSU Pueblo for all the different programs we offer, nursing is a great one. There's a lot of opportunity here, and we try to help people along the way. But online, you can do this thing in a way that's most convenient to you. But there's so many different pathways. You know, don't hesitate to explore and find these out. If you want to learn more about us, you can find us online at csupueblo.edu/online, or you can call us at 719-549-2100. I'm Gary Salazar. This has been Alisha Whaley talking about nursing. Thank you all for joining us. You all be safe out there. Stay warm too, because it's still winter. Thank you.